for staying with Citizen Extra. I'm Lillian Muli. We cross over now to Gracia Hotel here in Nairobi County, where Sam Ogina is on standby. Sam Ogina, what can you tell us as of this hour from your end?
Well, thank you so much, Lillian Muli at the Communication Center. Indeed, this is the last day for the ODM Dispute Tribunal sitting here at the Gracia Hotel to actually listen to appeals by members of Parliament or by aspirants who, one way or the other, either lost or are challenging victories of the other aspirants. And today we've been informed that the Appeals Tribunal is actually listening to 4 pending matters, and that include Mathare, Suna West, Embakasi East, where Babu Owino was also, his victory was challenged. And of course, there's one pending for the Nairobi women's representative. That is Esther Pasari's victory also being challenged here at the Gracia Hotel, where the ODM Appeals Tribunal is sitting. Of course, we've seen the likes of Shakil Shabir, the Kisumu East Member of Parliament, but we're informed that Shakil Shabir is actually coming to pick his judgment, given that he was given the go-ahead by the Appeals Tribunal. But other matters that are pending is, as I spelled out earlier, Babu Owino already arrived here just to make sure that his side of the story is actually listened to as he defends his win. Of course, given that tomorrow the Orange Democratic Party will be having its National Delegates Convention at the Kasarani Gymnasium to rubber stamp the tickets, or rather to rubber stamp Raila Odinga as the official NASA presidential flag bearer, then the Appeals Tribunal has to move with speed to ensure that all the aspirants who are actually having their appeals here today, they are given the go-ahead or are cleared to become candidates and granted their tickets so that they are able to attend the National Delegates Convention at the Kasarani Gymnasium, rightfully so, as candidates for the ODM party, and also as delegates who are able to ratify that decision by the NASA to hand Raila Odinga the flag bearership of the opposition coalition, as it were. Of course, it has been a process, a long process, injurious process for those who have been able to come here but have lost out in the race, in their nominations quest to become flag bearers on the ODM party ticket. But it has been also a sweet victory for those who are able to have their victory affirmed. There are those who actually have had their victory overturned, and there are those whose victory have been affirmed by the Appeals Tribunal. The Appeals Tribunal having have to listen to almost 20, more than 20 actually, appeals since the nominations exercise began on the 13th of this month, and now they have until today to make sure that they listen to all the pending matters that are still with the committee here at the Gracia Hotel. Of course, as you can see behind me, it's actually a flurry of activities, and also just a number of aspirants still lining up, but a majority of the aspirants who are here actually for those who lost out on the MCA positions, and now the Appeals Tribunal say, well, given their positions, it's very easy actually to deal with their situation compared to the kind of interest that was generated from, say, the Member of Parliament position, the Senator, and the Governor and the Women's Rep going up. So we'll keep you posted on what happens, especially on those 4 pending matters. Will Babu Owino carry the day once again? We'll see that before the end of the day today, and also what will happen to the other aspirants. Will Esther Pasaris also, will her victory be upheld by the Appeals Tribunal? That is something that we will wait to see. But of course, as the Appeals Tribunal continues to sit and listen to these appeals, we'll also be here just to make sure that our viewers get to know what is transpiring at the Orange Democratic Party as the candidatureship of all its aspirants are concerned. So I'll hand you over back to the Communication Center. Over to you, Lillian Muli.
Thank you for that, Sam Ogina. Staying with, of course, the fact that various political parties are releasing verdicts of post-nomination appeals. He's there at Gracia Hotel here in Nairobi County for the ODM Tribunal. And with me in studio is Brian Moutier, who's a governance expert, and Dr. Sam Kamau, political analyst as well. Good morning, gentlemen. Let's talk about, before crossing over to other topics of the day, let's stay with the verdicts of post-nomination appeals. And once again, for those who would opt to take the option of vying as independent candidates, the fact that, of course, they're complaining about delays, and we've seen the same at the Jubilee Party headquarters. They're complaining about delays. The deadline to go as an independent candidate is today. Let's start with you, Dr. Mutie.
Yeah, thank you, Lillian. I think the first question that begs is actually the preparedness of the registrar of political parties to handle the disputes of this nature or magnitude, for that matter. I'm saying this because they never foresaw this coming, in the sense that while we expected at least to have some fallouts from parties after nominations, we didn't envision this coming to this great magnitude, Lillian. And I'm saying this because if you look at the close of day yesterday, 2,000 independent candidates had lined up to be cleared, and the issues of simples, independent candidate simples, the issues of clearance, the issues of clearing the queue. That was a huge task to the registrar of political parties, Lillian. And I'm saying this because one thing that I can say is part of the lessons learned is that we ought to have actually put watertight measures to ensure that we do not have these, mushrooming numbers going that high, by at least raising the bar, so that at least somebody coming to declare himself as an independent candidate is really, worthy the salt. But this kind of a number actually, to me is alarming. And again, we also look at the issues of political parties' ability to resolve issues amicably without even creating the issues of fallouts. I think that's something that perhaps political parties need to examine deeply, in the sense that they need to find ways, mechanisms of taming their candidates or their aspirants, so that they do not have these surging numbers actually being witnessed as we are talking right now. But again, we are also looking at the issue of the political parties dispute tribunal. This is another organ that has been stressed as we are talking right now, Lillian. As you can see, they are also, witnessing a huge surge of people who feel that they are disgruntled, they are not really satisfied with the outcome. And also you can see that there are, pockets here and there of people who are also trying to beat the queue. Look at ODM as we are talking right now, Lillian. They are actually taking this as the last day that they are resolving issues, and at the same time, this is the last day when independent candidates have to be cleared. So the dilemma here is, what time are they going to be cleared from maybe the political parties, say Jubilee, ODM, Wiper and all that, then at the same time go present their credentials to the political parties, registrar of political parties? It is going to be a tasking or daunting task for them, Lillian.
And away from these respective tribunals, there are fresh signs that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto are warming up to small parties. Let me talk to you on this one, Dr. Kamau. Jubilee seeming to be reaching out to small parties, a change of heart from the party. They're reaching out to small parties in different regions so that they can seemingly protect the presidential vote. Your assessment of this?
Well, there are a few issues to look at in this. Originally, of course, Jubilee wanted to consolidate itself by bringing all political parties together. There were dissent coming from a few political parties, but I think a good number of them folded up. But if you look at it, one of the challenges that Jubilee will be facing, if we look at, for example, Kiambu, where, let's say, Waitito, who won the Jubilee nomination, there has been a feeling among some people that perhaps because there's no competition, voter turnout could be low. There's also the fact that after barring party hopping, there are some parties that have also come up representing specific regions like Northeastern, and they have felt that we are not best represented within the bigger political parties. Now, by coming together, there's a sense in which Jubilee acknowledges there are people who may have gone to these smaller parties, and they will be useful in terms of pushing the numbers, in terms of turnout for the elections. And also the fact that many people are going independent will also be useful to Jubilee and the other parties in terms of the turnout during the main elections. So there's a sense in which some people early in the day saw refuge in these smaller political parties. Other political parties, smaller political parties, have felt that this would be the best way to represent the interests of our people. For example, the Economic Freedom Party that met President Uhuru and his deputy yesterday is a sense in which the people of Mandera felt, even if within Jubilee or NASA we don't feel represented, we can form our own party. And I think Jubilee knows that this is likely to be a close election, and I think every vote counts. So if these smaller political parties can help marshal the numbers, it will be useful for us. Also, if you look at Maendeleo Chap now that seems to be friendly to Jubilee, if you look at PNU and a few other parties that seem to be friendly to Jubilee, they will definitely help in adding to the numbers, because this is most likely to be a close election.
And Dr. Mutia, before Jubilee was of the notion that strong national parties are an idea whose time has come, and going forward that small village parties would have no space. At least that was the thinking behind their decision not to collaborate with the smaller parties. So why this change of heart? Is this decision informed by the just concluded primaries?
Thank you, Lillian. The idea of limited number of political parties in the political space is a welcome idea. But again, comparing this scenario of Kenya versus other countries which are homogeneous in terms of language and culture, and I'm talking about, for instance, the US, where the issue of limited number of political parties has thrived very well. It's the reason, the reason behind this is because the differences are very little in terms of languages especially. There's nothing to do with ethnicity, save for some few issues of race here and there, maybe Hispanics, Black Americans, whites and all that. But the idea of one language for America has really gelled the communities together in the sense that they are likely to create a more understanding platform when it comes to matters of articulating policies, ideologies within a political party. But in Kenya, here being such an ethnicized sort of platform, Lillian, it is really a sort of a different ballgame altogether, because while we intend, or while we really welcome the essence of limited political parties, maybe 2 or 3, we realize that we cannot run away from the fact that our country is polarized in terms of ethnicity. We tend to clamor, or coalesce within personalities who lead some political parties, and that has really made it a complicated, math for us to be able to, minimize this number of political parties. That's why every community would want to elect or elevate one of their own to a situation where they would want to treat him as a kingpin, and then coalescing around that personality. That's how they feel that person will actually, address their interest at the higher level. But to mature to that level, Lillian, I think it's a matter of, for me, it's a matter of wait and see, because we have to put structures in place that would address the issue of negative ethnicity, so that can resonate very well with the political parties in this country. Otherwise, if we still remain polarized along ethnic lines and creating political parties along the same, then we are likely to find ourselves in a murkier situation as far as political parties are concerned.
Lillian, if you could allow me to weigh in on that particular issue.
Right.
We have to acknowledge that in Kenya we don't have true political parties in the true sense of the word. What we have mostly are ethnic welfare associations masquerading as political parties, where people come together and feel that our interests can be best championed, and they tend to follow the political supreme or the political leader of a particular region. So you cannot distinguish the big political parties in terms of ideology and things that they stand for, but in the real sense you find that it's always a copy and paste of the other. People tend to mobilize around ethnic calculations. So in that sense, I don't think it makes much sense to have 2 big political parties, because we know they are not necessarily formed on the basis of ideology, and I think that is a big challenge.
Back to you, Dr. Kamau, on the same. We do understand that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto met leaders of a little-known outfit from northern Kenya. We understand that some of these small parties are mostly from northeastern, where the issue of negotiated democracy was hotly contested. So why the lean towards these particular region?
Well, we know how things tend to work in the northeastern part of the country, and I think in the sense that the system of negotiated democracy, which in the past has been used, and I think for the first time is being challenged by quite a number of people if you look at it across. But there's a sense in which the northeastern region, even if you can say it's a battleground in many ways, it seems to be leaning towards Jubilee. And there was a sense in which the political, or let's say the president and his deputy, felt that by imposing, number one, the Jubilee party on the people, and where, for example, the negotiated democracy does not seem to be respected. You remember there were some leaders who called a press conference and said that Jubilee has to respect the negotiated democracy arrangement within that particular party. But like I said, that this will be a closely contested election, and therefore they have to look and see that if these small parties, and I still think there's another one, then Frontier Party, something that was also launched, they have to try and bring all of them and show that even if they are competing, they are all within Jubilee. And I think that is the key message. Even those who are within the negotiated or preferred candidates within the negotiated democracy arrangement, and those who are not supporting it, I think Jubilee is trying to show that we are all within the bigger or wider Jubilee family.
Dr. Mutia, we're coming to the end, of course. The party primaries were just concluded. So the acquiring of these small parties, which are now pro-Jubilee, would you say that this is aimed at providing an alternative to aspirants who might be discontent with the outcome of the nominations?
First of all, Lillian, it won't be possible for, according to the law, and this is a law that has been actually passed, it cannot be possible for someone to jump from one party to the other after nomination process has been concluded. And therefore, the only alternative these candidates have after losing from the primaries is just to go it alone, and in terms of independent candidates. But I want to, Lillian, if you may allow, just delve into something that perhaps touches on the issues of negotiated democracy. It is true that the president and his number two have really found a soft landing in the northern frontier, in the sense that they are able to, articulate their issues, and they are able to be listened thanks to the organizational structure within the ASAL regions. And I'm talking this because, Lillian, I have much experience when it comes to politics of the ASAL regions. I've been to Wajir, I've been to Marsabit, Garissa, Mandera, and the issue of clanism really takes a huge proportion when it comes to the political space of the day. And I'm saying this because we have seen the president and his deputy really successfully, mooting the idea of having their leaders supported through the so-called negotiated democracy, which I still have a problem with, because when you talk about negotiated democracy, then you are really killing the essence of people participation in the whole process of electing men and women of substance when it comes to leadership. But the moment you talk about negotiated democracy, then when the moment you remove that ability for people to participate in elections, then you are killing democracy. Then you can only remain with the so-called negotiated leadership. But again, I also want to say that it is very easy for people to sell that idea in the northern Kenya, because you only need to isolate the key decision makers within that region, convince them, perhaps give them something, and perhaps compromise them, and by so doing, you'll be able to get their voice actually being listened across the whole platform.
And we've seen the same wave, away from Jubilee in areas like Nyanza. When we talk about small parties, some of these smaller parties have come out to say they are affiliated to NASA. But what are their chances in the polls when competing with bigger parties such as ODM, Ford Kenya? Dr. Kamau.
Well, how I look at it, in 2013 it was a bit different, where people who were unhappy, let's say for example in the Nyanza region, if they were unhappy with the way ODM conducted its nomination, they found a home in Wiper or Ford Kenya, and that is where a good number of them, or there are several of them, who are elected under those parties. Now the fact that you are not able, party hopping has been bad. A good number of people have opted to go independent. Now, it will be quite a challenge, of course, to swim against the ODM wave in that particular region. But you have to know the reason we have so many independent candidates coming up is because we barred party hopping, which used to give people an option after a disputed nomination process. So there's a sense in which, where they openly, we knew that this was a popular candidate, and he seemed to be winning, but the last minute he lost the nomination unfairly. That is why we have we'll have such people, of course, receiving sympathy votes, but we'll also have such independent candidates who seem to command the support among most of the people. They're likely to perform quite well. For the smaller parties, I don't think they will have a strong showing in most of the regions. Of course, even if you look at the Mount Kenya, the wider Mount Kenya region, you still see, of course, maybe PNU in some of the areas, but independent candidates who are aggrieved in the nomination process, those are the ones who are likely to have a stronger showing, but not the smaller political parties.
Lillian, before you sign out on that topic, I think it would be important for me to say one important thing when it comes to small parties vis-a-vis the bigger ones. And I'm saying this because the only alternative these smaller parties have is to create an avenue where they can have the so-called pre-coalition pacts with the bigger parties, or alternatively they can have the so-called post-coalition pact. And I'm saying this because if you look at what the 40 people did after Jubilee came into power, they signed a so-called post-coalition, and they worked well, and that really saw Jubilee harnessing few votes in the House, in the sense that they were able to bring more friendly parties to work with, and political parties, of course, resonates with the people or with the numbers in Parliament, and therefore that option still is open. That avenue is still open, where smaller parties can still create that avenue for working with the potential government of the day. Alternatively, they can still strike a deal after the government of the day comes into place, and therefore those are some of the avenues that they can still explore.
And away from the acquisition of small parties, we have talked about signs that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto are warming up to small parties. Let's cross over to the Radisson Blu here in Nairobi County. The government has rolled out a drug that will be taken daily by HIV-negative people who are mostly at risk of HIV infection. The drug, referred to as a pre-exposure prophylaxis, or PrEP if you like, is to be taken by only those aged 15 years and above. Also launched is the PrEP self-testing kit, and we're going to be listening in to that presser there at the Radisson Blu, where Will Kistanyabwa is also on location.
In fact, today is my happiest day, kwa sababu ile gap ilikuwako katikati ya mimi na my wife in terms of status, our HIV status, imekuwa eliminated. That means vile nilikuwa na kauoga kidogo ati wakati ukitaka kupata mtoto tutaogopa kufanya sex without protection, that gap has now been eliminated. I'm very happy today. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Agnes Nyambura. I'm a gospel singer. I live with HIV for 12 years, and today is my happiest day because nilikuwa nimevaa sitawahi infect mtu. So PrEP imekuja kunisave because relationship yangu na my husband itakuwa tight na sitakuwa na uoga ya kumuinfect tukitaka kupata mtoto mwingine, because we are in that process, tunataka kupata mtoto mwingine. So I'm happy.
Maybe we'll just look around the session because of time. I'll ask the doctors to...
Let's start with them. Questions
start
to
with them? Yeah. You can sit so that the picture is nicer. So that you don't have empty seats. Maybe you can come close. So who have maybe the first 3 questions? We have Sarah, Nayasibo, and Ha. We'll start with Sarah. My question was on...
Kindly start with them because that's why.
Oh, the microphone. Is anyone with the question to the